Auntie, wait.
You stay at home. I was going to touch you on the bottom of your face. Coming through. She was trying to stick up her mum and mum.
Oh, that's right, yeah. What you can do with your eyes, see? You've never seen that before, have you? Come on. There. Get around the camera. Here. Hold it over your shoulder. Grab this over your shoulder.
That's Len's daughter, Ricky. June Haggett.
Yeah, yeah.
It's Len's daughter. She's doing a
tree.
It's the same as Leslie. A half-boy.
And I picked around with it and had a look at the gate and had plenty of fuel in it. And over the wine road, he wouldn't go near a truck, he come along. He said, what's the matter? He wrote it down. And he went and look, he said, you're out of fuel. Well, no, I'm out of fuel, I've got plenty of fuel. And then he got Spanner and he literally come to tell you you're out of fuel. And I said, we can't be out of fuel. Your needle's on half full. Your bloody needle, your bloody gun.
What have I got? Hey, have I got a pussycat?
It's only got three.
Beautiful tail.
Lovely.
Isn't it beautiful?
You look at her feet, she's got feathers on her feet, look.
Oh, so she is.
When she walks, these all stick out.
Is that better?
Oh.
And she's got real baggy breeches, you know.
Yes.
She walks.
Hi there. Frederick Miles Haggett, christened by my parents that way, large sense of humour. Barney will do. This is a photo of Naracoorte taken with a big cutting, looking down the back of the commercial hotel, to a bank on the right hand side. This is another photo taken from the tower of St Paul's Church, with the convent on the left hand side there and a bank on the right hand side, looking right over across the town. This is my grandfather's sister's tombstone. They were amongst the first Haggetts come out from England. There's a photo of Naracoorte, I would say about 45 at the end of the Second World War. But look at those vehicles. I wouldn't put any earlier than that. This is my father on a reaper, or a binder, mid-1920s I'd say. This is Walter and Martha's family with their first grandchild. Quite a heap of them. Just to think of that bunch of humanity, all came from one small woman. On the left, the brother Donald. Quite a crowd of them when you look at them. This is me, Barney. This is the Christmas of 1929. Family get together. This is the first grandchild, Frank Hill. He's sitting on Walter's knee. That's Martha, my mother, with my younger brother Frank. Frank was probably 2 years younger than me. This is Hubert. Tom Busby knew him. He was a couple of years older than what I am. This is my father, Walter. First time and only time I ever seen him with a tie on. My brother Donald. Scotty. Dad used to call him the bloody Chinaman, I don't know why. This is my sister Edith Cavill, Mrs. Wilcock. Her name is Dinks, always Dinks. This is my brother John Henry, who was always known as Jack. Sometimes Dad called him the expert. My sister Agnes Clarice Hill, me Haggett, always known as Sis. Alongside of that's her husband, Norman Huntley Hill, he was an Englishman. My brother Samuel Walter James, always known as Lofty. The photo taken, as I said, in 29 before he went to Queensland. My brother Roland Archibald, Blue. He was a jockey in his younger days. You wouldn't think it looking at him now. Leonard Albert Haggett. Skinny, or the big fella, as we used to call him. Mother and Dad on their wedding day. And why the husband used to sit and the wife stood, I'll never know. This is my mother and a cat. About 65. I think she thought more of the cat than she did of us kids. She had one cat and 10 kids. That might be the reason. This is my father, Walter. There was a dog in that photo with him. It's been cut out. That dog helped feed us kids. Mother and a cow, Dolly. Mother always had to milk the cow. Most of the time was spent on the long paddock. Open the gates, put her out in the road. The kid will round them up when they come home from school. Mother. This would be 65. In bed waiting for grandchildren to kiss good night. This is Sam, eldest brother, and my mother and two of Sam and Ida's children, taken in Queensland. My two sisters, Edith and Sis and Dinks, that we used to call them, dressed up, fancy dress ball. That would be mid-30s. This is Sis in their first car, a Citroen, later in the 30s. My brother Hubert Walter, Tom, this taken, I'd say early 40s. Younger brother Frank, taken the first house the wife and I lived in. That's where our 4 children were conceived. The Frank and Rain's wedding in 1949. This is Frank and I was best man at Frank's wedding, and the little flower girl in the front was Barbara Lang. This is me, some to about 1928, with the dad's hat, rifle and pipe. A young Ned Kelly by the look of him. Now this is me, 1943. My mother-in-law Dorothy Newton on the right, my right on the right, and my mother on the left. This is my fiancée and I in 1943. We were engaged then because everything's quite legal. This is my brother Jack in the 3rd Light Horse uniform. They were, I suppose you could call them regular army. That would be about 1935. This is Jack's brother again in Tobruk in 1941. They're looking at a wreckage of a plane, and whether it's ours or theirs I don't know. Brother Roland, or Blue as we called him, and the new home he built, that was in 1966. Sam and Ida's wedding, 1935. Handsome couple, aren't they? Nephew Keith Blackson and his wife Eileen. Blackson, Lee Hill, and Phyllis, my wife, now 4 children, with Keith and Eileen's son, John. Len and Banjo Patterson, the 1986 Jubilee Bullock Drive. And this was taken in the wool store in Port Adelaide after the drive. They walked from Adelaide to Naracoorte, a wagon load of wool. This is Don, Len's wife Rain, Len's daughter-in-law Marty, and Don's wife Ruby on the right. This is Len, Ida, Don, myself, and Jim. They've taken in Wirrangullah, Don's house. I'm not sure of the year of that. This is Daphne Haggett, Blue's wife. A lovely old soul, always had a laugh and a joke. This is myself, wife Phyllis, Daphne, Reen, and Len's wife, and Len. This is Don, brother Don, he blacksmith shop on the farm he had at Wirrangullah. This is Barney, myself, and my sister Dinks. That was taken on the day of Rick and Diane's wedding. This is Len, my brother Len, after the Bullock Drive, with Matthew Haggett Law on the left, Kylie Law, sorry, Lorraine Law and Lee Haggett, and Matthew. Glenn looks there as he's lost his razor. This is old and the new. This is Ida, Sam's wife Ida, and our first great-grandchild, Scarlett. Scott, you dirty little bugger. This is my sister Dink on the left, Len's wife Raina, myself, my wife Phyllis, Ida and Scarlett, Don's wife Ruby. This is Scarlett again, still with Ida in the background. Now these are Sam's and Ida's children and their grandchildren. The twins are there, Merle and Kathy. That's Terry in the background. That's Brian on the left and Brian's lovely daughter Christina in the front. This is the couple from Melbourne, the Hillman family. They are the descendants of Charles, Walter's brother. This is Jane Haggett. She looks savage there, but I assure you she's not. She's a rather lovely young lady. She's guaranteed non-feral and house trained. Gotcha.
Okay, I was asked a few weeks ago to open the ceremony, or whatever you like to call it here. Sort of put a bit of thought into it, and never got through anyway, because I don't think about it. But the easiest way for me to say it is, on behalf of the Naracoorte relatives, I'd like to welcome all the out-of-town, out-of-state relatives to Naracoorte and to our family muster. My name is Ricky James Haggett. The lady over here on the video camera is my wife Diane. The little fella sitting there is my youngest son, big grin on his face, Dylan. And my oldest son is over here. We've changed him up for the day. I've explained to him, don't try and pick any of the ladies up, they'll be later. Where he gets that from, I don't know. I'd just like to give you a quick rundown of where I fit into the whole big picture of everything. I am the youngest son of Phyllis Faye and Frederick Lawrence Haggett. Phil, Barney, Fred, and a lot of other names have been called over the years, or to the immediate family, Pop and Nan. My father is actually the second youngest. I knew there was a second youngest somewhere. He was the second youngest child of Walter Henry and Martha Catherine Haggett. 10 children. The 10 children were Walter Samuel James, born in 1907. Agnes Clarence, called Sis. Clarice, I knew I'd got that. Born in 1908. John Henry. Jack, born in 1910. Roland Archibald, Blue, born in 1912. Leonard Albert, Len, born in 1914. Donald Shoeborn, who the hell would give their kid a name like that? Don, born in 1917. Edith Kilburn, Dent, born in 1919. Hubert Walter, Tom, born in 1921. It's a bit strange here because there's a bit of a 4-year gap. I don't know whether Grandpa went away working or what happened. I'm not too sure. He was up in the valley. Then come Frederick Lawrence, Barney Fred Pop, born 1925. The youngest, Francis Stanley Frank, born 1926. Now for you people out there who aren't very good on the mathematics, most of us know that the woman is pregnant for 9 months. That's actually 11 months. And then he calculates out to 10 months. So my grandmother was pregnant for 8.3 years. It's not a bad effort when you think about it. I actually thought I didn't think of that. Now, what I'd like to do is just give a bit of a breakdown of a few of my childhood experiences with my uncles, my aunties. Of course I didn't know them all, I didn't spend a lot of time with them all, but I did spend time with several of them, and I did learn things from them. Things that I still use, think about in my life today. Walter Samuel, Uncle Sam. Never had a hell of a lot to do with Uncle Sam, or Auntie Ida. I actually went up there one year with Greg Haggett, commonly known as Charlie. I went up there to visit and dropped in and we were treated like family. It was great. Uncle Sam obviously had his father's genes because there was 8 kids in that family. Sorry, I apologise, Auntie Ida. 8 children, including twins. Now I don't know whether people here have ever been to Luna Park in Sydney when it was open. They used to have a big roller coaster ride up there. Pretty amazing. I had a better experience than that. I got into a VW with my Auntie Ida to drive around Brisbane. I didn't have to pay for it. And then we come on the Roland Archibald, Uncle Blue. When I was, I'm only guessing here, I reckon I was about 8 or 9. Uncle Blue showed me how to make a fox whistle out of a piece of tin. Put a lot of work into it, explained it to me, showed me how to use it, and everything that goes along with it. And I actually kept that fox whistle for several years, but somewhere along the line I lost it. Something that always amazed me about it was when I was only a little kid, I'd seen dead foxes. They stunk, they had big teeth. There was no way in the world I was going to use something to make one of those things come closer to me. Other things was Uncle Blue and Auntie Dad were the only uncles and aunties in Naracoorte that I never actually went and stayed with. Probably because they live right next door. But I can remember simple little things like Uncle Blue used to have a beautiful veggie garden. He used to grow the greatest sweet corn. Every year, his youngest daughter, Lynette, used to knock up a couple of bits for me and I used to sneak down the back and eat them. And one thing I remember about Auntie Dad, which people that spent time with her would remember, the dirty jokes Auntie Dad told me, I reckon I could have written 10 books. Then we get on to Uncle Len. I used to spend a fair bit of time up at Uncle Len's. He used to always be where we went for Christmas Eve until we got a bit older. We used to rock up out there and we used to have our games of cricket. We'd have Charlie and Weasel, all the boys up there, everybody be having a game.
What about me? I was there.
And my sister was there too. Something that used to amaze me about Uncle Len, he was a very fair man. I can remember one day after hiding in the bushes for about an hour and a half and thinking, beauty, I haven't had the bat. He said, right, I reckon it's your turn to bat. So I go out the bat, thinking, Jesus, what am I doing out here? These guys have got real cricket balls. So then the other end's a bloke by the name of Greg Charlie Haggett. Now Greg had a cricket ball in his hand. And Greg used to run up right back past the shearing shed and pelt this ball at 90 miles an hour. I'm thinking, right, I've got a little man and then face at least one ball. Ball comes in, no worries, 2 steps backwards, swing the bat, I'm out, beauty, I'm out of here. No, that wasn't good enough. Uncle Len said, no, come on Rick, that's not fair, get back and have another hit. Oh God, well, I really, I don't have another hit. So I went back and had another hit, but the biggest problem with that was the second part of the 2-prong attack, Lydia Thompson, Weasel Haggett was up the other end ready to have a bowl. And what really made it worse was the fact he was the next batsman in. So he's got the ball, he's pissed off, because I'm having a second hit. He never got a second hit. They were out. And there's a thing about Uncle Len and Auntie Reen's place that always amazed me. Up the back of their place is a little place called Heaven. That's where heaven is. We used to have a billy goat called Billy. I went out the back one day and I said, Dad, your goat's gone, where is he? Son, your goat's dead, son. Sorry, it's dead. Well, where's he gone? Gone to heaven. Oh yeah, that's fair enough. I was up at Uncle Len's and Auntie Reen's one day, one ran up the back scrap, there's Billy. He was still dead, but he was there, so I guess that's where heaven was. Just getting back to the cricket side of it, I did actually recover from that experience. I did actually manage to get enough balls, I suppose you call it, to go on and play cricket. At the right old age of 22, at Leesendale, this is about a word of a lie, I made 254 runs not out. 254. And if we hadn't lost the tennis ball, I would have made more. Now, just on Uncle Len, there's one more thing. I've lost my focus, where am I? Here we go. I'm going to get a chance to fulfill a promise I made to Uncle Len 30 years ago. I think it's 30 years ago. We were up a while staying up there, and Charlie and Weasel and I, we wandered up the back, and we were mucking around and playing and doing this and doing that. There used to be an old shed up the back, we used to have a harvester in it, and a heap of hay and this and that and something else, and we found a bit of what they call mallee root. Don't know if anybody knows what the mallee root is. It's a root of a tree that's got poles all the way through it, you light the end up and you can smoke it like a cigarette. we got sprayed. And I can remember Uncle Len making us all go up to the house and want to know what we were doing up there with matches around farm equipment and hay and all the rest of it. And I can remember the other two boys yelping. I can remember getting their asses tanned well and through. And I'm sitting in the other room and I'm thinking, oh Jesus, I'm going here. Uncle Len came to me and he said, Rick, you're going home tomorrow and you're going to promise me something. I said, what's that? He said, you're going to tell your mum and dad what you did. And I said, I promise. Well, Uncle Len, I've just told my mum and dad. Now we go on to Uncle Donald Shoeforth. Uncle Don and Auntie Ruby. Uncle Don was always my favourite uncle. He always had a saying to me, and it took me a lot of years to work out what he meant. It was always, come on, come on, come on, come on. And it wasn't until I got a bit older he meant that I was slow and what I was doing, so hurry up. The beauty of staying in Uncle Don's and Auntie Ruby was that every night after tea you got sweets. Every night, not like at home, once a week, you got sweets. Every night. Every night you need to tea, Auntie Ruby would bring the sweets out. It was great. Uncle Don taught me the uses of a pocket knife. He taught me how to drive. Get on a brick, drive, shoot a go, off you go. And between Merv and Ross, they told me more stories about sex and women than I'll probably ever need to know. And then of course, and I'm not going to tell any of them, then of course we get on to my dad and my mum, who I actually live with. There's connections going right through this town. I worked at the King Craig Hotel for several years, and I was telling my mum one day that we'd been doing a bit of work out in the back flats. And Mum said, yeah. I think it was Mum or Dad, one of those. I said, yeah, my mum used to work out there. That's where she used to stay when she worked. And right through the family, we've had cousins and brothers. The whole lot had worked there at some stage. And I would bet my left, I can't say that, but I would bet anything I've got that there's not a Haggett in Naracoorte that hasn't been kicked out of the place at one stage. On the family side, that's about it for me. I would just like to let you know, a little bit later on we're going to have a barbecue, or several barbecues you can see at the back. We've got meat, sausages, some shivachis, some chicken wings, bits and pieces. We'll be cooking that up, so please hang around and have a bit of a feed. What we're attempting to do over here with the video camera is video and get as many shots of different people as what we can. We would like later on at some stage to get people to talk to the video camera and just explain who they are, where they come from and how they tie in. Now what I'm going to try and do at a later stage is to put this video together to make a product which will be saleable. Those videos will be sold for $30 each, which I'm fortunate that the lowest I can go on it. $10 out of that will go immediately back into a kitty to help to pay for bits and pieces, the hire, the haul, etc, etc. So anybody who would like a video or like a copy of it, can you please give Di or myself your names and your address, and we'll need it to be paid for 2 days. So give us your postal address, etc, etc, and we'll down the track we'll video and send it off to you. Other than that, right now I'd like to introduce June Haggett to you. June's going to come up and have a bit of a yak, a bit of a nag, and tell us a few things. June is actually the person that's put this all together. June is the one that's done all the legwork, chased everything around, and got all the information that's over the other end put together. So June is probably the one we need to thank. I'd just like everybody to give June a warm welcome. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. I think most of you know me. I've been nagging on you for years for details. Firstly, I'd like to give you some messages for people who couldn't come today. Betty Beale, who was represented at Port Lincoln, greetings to all, love to Marty and Beck, and remember the good times we had when we were young. Philip and Nolene landed at Peterborough, due to other commitments we are unable to attend, best wishes to all. Lance led in Adelaide, best wishes to all. Hartley led in Adelaide, best wishes to all. Tony and Alison Haggett balanced Springs. Say hello to everyone for us and let the tribe know there is a Haggett in the Alice and he's not a bad bloke. Call in the six if you're up this way. Ask man, Ida about me, not Pearl, as she tells fibs. Margaret Sheridan, who was Margaret Haggett, best wishes, hope it's a successful day. Sam Haggett of Boala, New South Wales, due to ill health unable to attend, and Lorna Leonard and her husband Jim are unable to attend and send their best wishes. That'll be all for the moment. We get Jennifer, please.
Jennifer Haggett. Leonard Haggett is my grandfather. Bob Haggett is my father. Now I've got a family tree, a bit of history here to read out, so please bear with me and I hope I don't talk too fast. Okay. Elizabeth Haggett is the first family member we have found arriving in Australia. She came on the immigrants in 1854. It is possible that her older brother George came to South Australia before her, but no record has been found of his arrival. We don't know where Elizabeth worked or lived before her marriage to John Gilman at Nairn in 1855. Also at Nairn by September 1857 was a James Haggett. His daughter Marianne, 16 months, died 6th of September 1857 at Nairn. James was a wheelwright. No trace has been found of his arrival either, nor do we know who his wife was. That child, Marianne, is not registered in South Australia, nor were any of the children registered to James. In 1875, when John Gilman died, James Haggett was the informant of death, but James Haggett just disappears. No record of his death to 1915 has ever been found. There are only 2 instances of his name being found. He remains a mystery. That's pretty cool. Now we jump to 1858, when Samuel and Elizabeth Haggett, with their 6 youngest children, came to Australia on the Alfred. Their family left from Liverpool and arrived at Moreton Bay, Queensland, 19th of September 1858. Ages given by the family were Samuel 46, Elizabeth 46, Jane 20, Charles 17, Samuel 14, Mary 12, Ruth 10 and Anne 6. It does appear that Samuel unstated his age. As he was baptised in 1803, he was at least 55 years old in 1858. Elizabeth was baptised in 1811, so her age was nearly right. Understating age was quite common. It had to be realised that if the men, especially, gave the correct age, they could be considered too old to be employed as agricultural labourers. That was another reason that older children were sent on ahead and the only younger ones came with their parents. The Haggett family was still in Queensland in December 1859, pre-separation of Queensland and New South Wales. We don't know exactly where Samuel, Elizabeth and family came to South Australia. We think they came by coastal shipping and possibly landed at Kingston. There are no records of passengers on coastal shipping. Also at that time, Kingston did not have a jetty. The main reason that Kingston has been chosen as the port of arrival is the fact that Elizabeth Hillman had a child at Kingston in 1860. For John and Elizabeth Hillman to travel from Nairn to Kingston, there must have been a very important reason, like her family arriving. So now we have the family in the southeast. Records I have gave us Samuel Haggett shearing at Newland Station in Victoria, 12th of September 1864. He earned, 15.6, sorry. He earned 15.6. But which Samuel was it, father or son? My father always said it was his grandfather, but I don't think he was aware that his great-grandfather was also Samuel. Mary Haggett, 18 years, was working at W. Stewart Station at Avenue Range, where she died 19th of January 1865. She is buried in the old cemetery here in Naracoorte. The Haggett family by then were living in a hut in Ormond Street on the banks of the Naracoorte Creek, lots 15 and 16. In 1892, allotment part number 16, King Crane, was on the market and was described as containing 101 feet frontage to Ormond Street and was situated between the post and telegraph offices on the east and the district council chambers and offices on the west and opposite the National Bank. However, passed it at £65. By 1870, Samuel Haggett Senior paid rates on sections 15 and 16, fenced allotment with a hut, King Crane. Also section 109, 100 Naracoorte, being 114 acres, fenced and part cultivated. Rates paid in 1871 and 1873. 12th of September 1874, Elizabeth Haggett died. She's buried in the Old Cemetery. By November 1876, Samuel Haggett Jr. appears to be in charge of section 109 on the Mesmery Road. Samuel Haggett married Mary Ann Quire, December 1876. In March 1877, Samuel advertised section 109 for sale. The ad read, a section of land in the 100 of Naracoorte, subdivided in 2 paddocks and fenced with red gum posts and 4 wires. There is a good 2-roomed house on the ground and also 2 water holes. For particulars, apply to Samuel Haggett Jr., Naracoorte. 1877, rates paid by Samuel Haggett for section 109, lots 15 and 16, show only as fenced land without a hut.
Good job.
1878, Samuel and Mary Haggett had moved to Lucerdale. Samuel applied to the Lucerdale Council for permission to put a gate and a brush fence across the road between sections 22 and 23, permission granted. 1881, Samuel Haggett Senior admitted himself to the destitute asylum. Hello. 1882, Samuel Haggett Jr. released into the care of his daughter, Mrs. Elizabeth Hillman, Watts of Callington. However, she could not manage him and he was readmitted to the destitute asylum. 29th of July 1883, Samuel Haggett Senior died at Adelaide Destitute Asylum, possibly buried at West Terrace Cemetery in Adelaide. There we go.
That's something that sort of amused me too, family we're not. As the generations went on, we had a few convicts, but originally we weren't. We had supported passage to Australia, which means the silly buggers in Australia paid for us to come over. Does that make sense? So feel free, we can actually have chains on us. Probably should have.
South Australia did not have Victoria, New South Wales, Tasmania, most people that came to South Australia were sister migrants. Now, we have here today 2 people from Melbourne who descend from Elizabeth Haggett, who married John Hillman, but I introduced Val and Russell Hardy to give you a little rundown on the Hillman Haggett connection.
That was the answer.
On behalf of Russell, who is actually really happy to see, he's asked me if I said, because I've done all the family history between myself and Jude. Russell's very good, he does all the computer work and he's put photos and the reunion file onto CD-ROM. So he's the computer expert and I just do all the research. And as mentioned before, Elizabeth seemed to have come over separately from the other members of the family in 1854, and she came to South Australia while the others came in 1858 to Moreton Bay, Queensland. And Elizabeth came over on ship, the immigrant, listed as domestic servant, and there were quite a few other young ladies on the ship with her. So she's obviously come over to be, they were short of female at the time, the 1850s, plenty of men but shortage of women. And it was soon after she arrived in 1854 that she married a widower, John Gilman, who had come to South Australia in 1837. And he was a widower and he married Elizabeth Haggett and they lived up in Nairn. He owned quite a bit of property up there. He had farming and he cutting of timber. He had a sort of going. And it was here that Elizabeth and John had about 10 children, one of whom was Russell's great-grandmother Elizabeth, Carol. Elizabeth and John, and one of whom was Carol, was Russell's grandmother. The 10 children that Elizabeth and John had, it appears that when John died, Elizabeth remarried, and then it was about 1880, 1890, a group that came over to Victoria. There were about 5 of the children came over. I haven't been able to find when Elizabeth actually came to Victoria, but she obviously came to stay with her children because she died in Fox Hill in 1917, and the family was Charles and Curtis and Carolyn and Alice and Laura. They all settled in the Doncaster area and they had orchards and farms. And Charles Gilman was well known, he was a blacksmith and he was well known for designing a special disc towel that was used in the orchards and also a special jinker he forged in his blacksmith for cutting the fruit between the trees because sometimes it was very wet and bumpy and so they didn't want to get the fruit wet. He invented a little jinker that would go over the bumps that the fruit would be kept dry so that they could take it off to the market in Melbourne. And Curtis was also with Charles as a blacksmith and Alice, they all lived close together and Alice was known to relate to her to Russ's cousin Marjorie, that when she was a little girl she used to be the shepherd for John Gilman with looking after the sheep because in those days there were fences everywhere. So she could remember being a shepherd and sometimes only being a little girl she fell asleep and then had to race around trying to find the sheep. So we're a little bit separate from the rest of you because we spent most of our life, or all our lives, spent in Melbourne and they really settled in Doncaster. It's about the only place they stayed. So I think that's about all.
Thank you, Val. Val and I have been corresponding for about 10 years, gathering information and sharing information on our family. I have a little trivia for you. Jenny said that Elizabeth came to Adelaide on the Emerald, or Port Adelaide, which was then called Port Misery, because of mosquitoes. 2 other passengers came to Port Adelaide on the immigrant in 1854 were Mr. and Mrs. Henry Smith. They went on to Roe where Mr. Smith was to build a house for Mr. George Ormeron. Mr. and Mrs. Smith then came to Naracoorte in 1855. The building trade was not very brisk at the time, so Mr. Smith put his hand to any kind of work. The stations were being fenced in, and the days of the shepherds were numbered. Mr. Smith took on large fencing contracts, Bidham Station being one. He also built wool sheds at Bidham, Colin Kennewick, Rathroy and Benio. He was also the contractor for building Struan House, Moyhall House and Crowan House. In partnership with Mr. Agar's, they erected the old portion of the commercial hotel, then called the Bushman's Arms. They also built the courthouse, police station, Globe Hotel and Agar's cottages. The family of Mr. and Mrs. Henry Smith were Mr. Robert Smith, blacksmith and millwright, Naracoorte, Mr. T. Smith, Western Australia, Mr. William Smith in the Tatiara, Mrs. Tidy, Naracoorte, Mrs. Mudge, Woodburn, Mrs. Clark, Watertown and Mrs. Burge, Watertown. In 1902 they had 43 grandchildren.
Just while we're waiting, Jean, all the information that's been read out at the moment now is actually over there by the TV in different files. There's breakdowns on the different families. There's a board at the back that goes way back. So if you're interested in that, just have a look at it. What we're going to do a little bit later on, we've got a video we're going to be playing. It's the 150 Jubilee Bullocky trip from Naracoorte to Adelaide. So anybody who's interested in having a look at that, we'll be playing, so you can just have a bit of a gander at it. You ready there, I'll go? Okay, I'll put it back to Jane.
The next member of the family that came out with England was Jane Haggett. We don't have any descendants from this line, so I'll just give you a brief rundown of that family. Jane Haggett married Joe Barnett, 30th December 1862 at Calera, near Rome. Joe was an overseer at Calera at 10 Mile Point. Jane was a servant at Calera. Witnesses were Charles Barrington and Naracoorte, who also worked on the station. The wedding took place in the dwelling house of Mr. James Nosworthy's sheep farm. In 1871 to 1887, Jane Barnett was the licensee of the ship in Kingston. James and Joe had two daughters born in Kingston, Mary Jane in 1870 and Martha Elizabeth in 1876. The ship inn was later known as the Crown Hotel. The daughters married. One daughter married Paris Chancellor and they had the Francis Hotel. The other daughter married Andrew Martin, who was a river trader on the River Murray. There are very few descendants from those two lines. As I say, there are no descendants, so we'll skip on to the next one if you don't mind.
Would one of you ladies like to read Charles Haggett's?
My name's and my maiden name is Haggett, and I come from Kingston, and my grandparents originally came from Lucedale, which is at Lucedale, to go to the Royal Mail Hotel in 1925. And this is the story of Charles and Margaret Haggett. Charles Haggett married Margaret Brooks on the 26th of April 1869 in the private residence of Mr. William Lee, near Rome. Witnesses were Emily Lemke and Sarah Lee. Margaret Brooks was not born in South Australia. The first child was born in Kingston, 1870. 1870, Mary Ann was born at Naracoorte. 1872, Roland John born at 10 Mile Point, which is out of Kingston. 1874, Samuel Charles born in Kingston. And 1876, the place of birth of the next child, Thomas George, 1879, is not recorded. Walter Charles, born 1881, Joyce, as per Samuel Thomas Ambrose, 1884, Ruth, 1886. The last child, Thomas George, 1889, was registered as being born at Lucedale. From the birthplaces of the children, we can see that Charles and Margaret moved around the southeast following work until 1881, when they settled at Joyce on land that Charles had selected. In 1885, Charles and Margaret rented a cottage from the Hensley family near Lucedale. In 1895, Charles tendered for the conveyance of horse mails, Lucedale and Clonmara, for the next 3 years. The price of £30. This tender was accepted. April 1897, Charles Haggett was in the employ of Pete Robson of Conmara, working on the drains about 7 miles north of Quandoo. From Lismore Council meeting February 1898, at the last meeting of the District Council, a motion was carried that the Commissioner of Police be written to asking to station a treatment here. This is a subject which has been agitating in the minds of the residents for some time, and there is no doubt whatever that the presence of a trooper would have a beneficial effect at times. The residents themselves were quiet and peaceful now, but the large number who are continually passing to and fro to the government works are not all that could be desired, and some, knowing there is no officer of the peace about, take full advantage of this and make themselves heard and felt in a manner not appreciated by the residents here. Several have been complaining lately that some of their stock has been missing. How, they cannot say, but as they cannot find any trace of the carcasses and neither the dingo or fox can carry them away, they are anxious to find out how they disappeared. Probably this could be solved by having a trooper stationed. Council has appointed Mr J.C. Guy as Rabbit Inspector and Mr C. Haggett as Ranger, both good men in their respective positions. 1901, male service, listed after Conmara, C. Haggett at £30 for 3 years. In 1904, the male service at Conmara went to H. Watkins. Charles Haggett died on 27 April 1910 at Lisdale, aged about 70 years. Buried the 28th of April 1901 at Lisdale, grave 149. Margaret Haggett died on 25th of September 1928, place of death unknown and place of burial unknown.